Hi, I'm Matt and welcome to the Black Box Mind channel. There are loads of different ways to go about spicing up your video editing, and one such way is to include B-roll footage that you've either filmed or collected for use during your editing. There are loads of different things to think about with B-roll, so let's dive straight in. Don't forget to like and sub to the channel if you find the video interesting. B-roll, or B-reel as it's sometimes referred to, is supplemental or alternative footage that is shown on screen rather than your main footage during a scene or sequence. For those new to video editing, let's jump into a video editing program and see what it is I'm talking about. So here we are in Final Cut Pro 10, but don't worry if you use another software, it's not important for this example. Let me set the scenario. I've recorded an interview with one camera and I want to edit the sequence to make it flow better and to create a more interesting video for the people watching. Currently all 49 of you. As you can see, I've got some footage that is already down on the timeline. I've got my one long recording of the interview. This footage is my main footage, or A-roll if you want. I also have some extra clips that I've recorded whilst I was on location. This could be things like extra clips of setting up equipment, shots of the building where the interview was taking place, shots of the environment where the person works or lives, etc, etc. All that stuff is our B-roll, or extra alternative footage that we're talking about in this video. This is the footage laid out here at various different places in the video for various different reasons, and that's what we're getting into in a bit. Right, got the general idea of what B-roll is now? Good. Now that we understand what it is, I'm sure you're going to have some questions about it. All right, how's it going? Questions like, well, why would I need B-roll footage? Well, how do I go about getting this B-roll footage? Okay, you could, and what should the B-roll footage even be of? Okay, so let's just take these questions one at a time, shall we? All right, ciao. So let's tackle the first question on this list. Why would I need this B-roll footage? Well, B-roll is helpful for loads of different reasons. We all know the famous phrase of a picture speaks 1,000 words. Well, the same is also true with video in certain circumstances. As I'm sure you can imagine, there are certain things that can be much more easily explained with the use of images or video. If I was to tell you a simple explanation of creating a J-cut in an editing program, it would probably take me, probably about 5 minutes to explain word for word the procedure for doing it, by which time you'd probably be about ready to jump out the nearest window. But if I showed you how to do a J-cut with a simplified voiceover explaining the procedure at the same time, then this would be way easier to understand. Another reason why you might want to have plenty of B-roll to work with is that with B-roll it becomes easy to cover up edits to make an originally bad or janky take into something much smoother. Remember, editing together audio is always much easier than editing together video and audio. For example, here's a shot of me talking about something. It doesn't really matter what I'm talking about, but the key thing here is to notice that what I'm saying is not said in a very smooth way. There are many different transitions that you are able to apply to clips on a timeline, like cross dissolves, swipes, and lots of other options. But if I add in some B-roll, this extra related footage, then I'm able to edit the audio to be a lot smoother without seeing all of the jump cuts that I would be making if I didn't have the B-roll footage. There are many different transitions that you are able to apply to clips on a timeline, like cross dissolves, swipes, and lots of other options. So there are two really big reasons why you'll probably want to have some B-roll footage: to help explain things and to cover up edits. So what was the next question again? So how do I go about getting B-roll footage? Okay. Yeah, got it. So now that you know B-roll footage is helpful, how do you go about getting it? Yeah, we just said that. Can you just shut up, please? There are some different ways of doing this. Arguably, the best solution would be to go out and film your own B-roll footage for use in your videos. Your footage will link much better with the other main footage that you've already shot. It'll also be more relevant, but we'll talk more about that later. The filming of this extra footage for use in your videos is obviously going to take time. So you need to think ahead and plan for this extra time if you're filming on location. Also, if possible, film your main content first. This will mean that you have a much better idea of what's been covered in the filming, so you'll have a much better idea of what your B-roll needs to cover. This extra filming doesn't just apply if you're filming on location. You'll also need to think about it if you're filming in your own living room, like me. But sometimes it simply isn't possible to film the footage that you want for various different reasons. You may not have the resources to film what you want, or you may simply not have the time to do it. So, where to get B-roll if this is the case? Well, where do we get everything else these days? The internet. There are now a whole host of different websites that have a plethora of stock footage to pick from. You'll probably find that the best footage will be something that you'll probably have to pay some money for. But there are some places that have an okay selection of footage for you to use in your projects. A couple of sites that I use on the regular are pixabay.com and mixkit.co. Now, there are some downsides to using stock footage. Firstly, if you have an eye for the better quality footage, there's a chance that you're going to be looking at spending money on your B-roll. If your project has a budget, then great. But most of the time, YouTube channels are on a kind of low to no budget situation, so it's worth thinking about. Secondly, depending on your project, it may be hard to find footage that matches exactly what you need. If you're doing a video on, electron microscopy, then chances of finding footage related to that subject are slim to none. Trust me, I've literally had that exact experience. Finally, this isn't really a downside, but more of something to pay attention to when looking for stock footage. Always check the license for using the footage. Some sites place certain demands or constraints on how they want you to display the footage. For example, some footage requires attribution, either with a link or mention. Sometimes they might place restrictions on the footage if it's for commercial use or if it's for use over a range of different territories. The sites that you get the footage from will make all this information available for you and make sure that you adhere to it and read properly what they're requesting. Finally, the last question, what should your B-roll footage be of? Are you still here? So this question is actually a really interesting one. You may be tempted to place any amazing looking footage that you find, thinking that great clips will raise the production values of your video. But unfortunately, it's not that simple, at least if you want your videos to be effective at delivering information for your viewers. You see, you only have a limited capacity for the amount of information that you can process over a certain period of time. This capacity is called cognitive load, and this cognitive load is not actually as big as you think it might be. So, when you're watching a video, you're taking in audio and visual information at the same time. When there's a mismatch between the two, then most of the time this causes problems for the viewers in understanding and remembering the information that you're trying to impart. This is called the coherence principle, and I cover it in another one of my videos. Honestly, it's actually quite interesting. Anyway, back to B-roll. When you're filming or picking your B-roll, you want to make sure that your footage is relevant to what it is that you're covering at that moment in the video. This way, your viewers are receiving a coherent stream of information or entertainment that is less likely to overload them and switch them off from your video. Alright, I think that covers the basics of B-roll. Thanks for that. See ya there. You're welcome. So, if you've got any questions, stick them in the comment section down below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Oi, that's my line.